Hey guys, it's BigWillDogg82 in the soil, and we're now into fall, and there's various tasks and chores that you're gonna have to do when it's this time of the year. So today we're gonna focus on my wicking bed and some of the maintenance I gotta go and do prior to putting it to bed for the winter. Are you familiar with what a wicking bed is? If not, I'm going to let you know what the goods, the bad, and some of the specific tasks that you got to do specifically when you're dealing with them. So come along and I'll show you guys exactly what's entailed. So what you have in front of you here is my wicking bed. It's one of 3 of them that I have, and they're all set up exactly the same way as far as the soil that's in them and how you add water to them. If you can see, this here is the pipe where the water goes in. It's got a cap on it just to keep bugs and stuff out, and really all it does is when it's completely full, it holds about 11 to 12 gallons of water in the bottom, and then there are I call them socks, but they're not really socks, but they're things that are filled with perlite, and the perlite helps the water move upwards towards the soil that's contained within. Now, every single time that I'm having to rehab this, you would think that, okay, maybe you just go ahead and pull the weeds out or the roots out. Typically, that's not what I do. I will usually end up just chopping the plants that are in here off and then leaving the roots in. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. So first things first, I did have other trellises in here for my watermelon and my cantaloupes, but obviously those are removed now. So we're going to go ahead and remove this out of here, which was the middle one. All right. There's that. Put that over here. It's probably gonna fall, but oh well. So now the next thing I want to try to do is take out some of this straw here. Actually, you know what? No. We're gonna go ahead and caulk these off. Now these are marigolds, and as you can see, they're all still looking halfway decent. They're nothing compared to what they were earlier in the season, but as much as I like them, it's just that time now to get rid of them so I can do what I need to do. So let's go ahead and get these out of here. Let's go right here. So there's one. Well, just throw it on the ground for right now. Deal with the stuff later. Oops, forgot a piece. Alright, well, that side's out. These are, I had grown some cilantro in here too. Obviously they're dead and gone now, so we'll get rid of that. I mean, I'm not really worried about pulling out roots, but if there's anything in here that's already decayed and I can just pull it out without damaging or without pulling too much soil out, that's what I'm gonna do. Huh, one watermelon that just didn't want to make it. That'll be compost. Alright, now we're going to get this other one over here. And there we go. That's out. Like I said, they turned out to be pretty beautiful plants, and they're pretty big. I may take seeds from this, I may not. I don't know. I've got plenty of them in there thanks to my buddy Look to Nature Homestead. So if I haven't already said this before in a video, thank you, Look to Nature, for your seeds that you sent me. They have been awesome to use this season, and I can't wait to send you back some of my strawberries. Now, that's all done. I could take the time to go ahead and weed through here, but I don't think I'm going to spend too much time doing that. Oh, see, and look, we already got Oh, this is probably going to be a problem next season. I can see it already. All these heads that are in here. You know what I'm going to do first? I'm going to pause this so I can clean up all these seed heads, because it will take me entirely too long to do it on camera while you guys are watching me, and that's boring. So I'll be right back. Alright, now as you can see now, we've gotten all of the straw mulch off of the top of the bed, and you can see now that it's dropped down at least 3 good inches, maybe 3.5 inches. And the thing I noticed this season too is typically these are my best beds, and for some time now I've been able to notice a little bit of nutrient cycling. So say you add a little bit of fertilizer in here, since it has no way to go out of the system, it goes down into the water, say from rain and snow and everything else, but then is brought back up through the capillary action of those socks that I said that are touching the soil down the bottom. So it sort of kind of gives this, rotation of nutrients. Well, I haven't had to really hit this with any kind of granular fertilizer for about 3 years now. Usually I just do some compost, and then when I plant something in, if I'm doing a plant start, I will just go ahead and add something to the plant hole, and that's it. Well, I noticed that the plants this season were asking for a little bit more nutrients than normal. So that being the case, this is the way we're tackling this container here, which basically that's all it is, the glorified container. And we're going to tackle it in a way that makes it easier for the plants next season and easier on me, because I won't have to really worry about nutrients. So we're going to do that in 2 ways. The first way, we're going to be digging out the center here and taking that soil, blending in my organic granular fertilizer, worm castings, and some more perlite and vermiculite, and that will help the core for when the roots go down, and that'll start the nutrient cycling, especially with me doing it now. The second thing we're going to do is I've already got some sifted compost, both leaf mold and hot compost, that have been blended together, that we're going to also add to some more of the Pro Mix, which is mainly what this is, along with the additional perlite and vermiculite to bring it back up. So let's go ahead and we'll start with getting this core of the wicking tub out. So first I'm going to break this up a little bit, aerate it, because everything's pretty compacted over a growing season. I'm not doing this to break up the roots, so to speak. I'm just doing it to get a little bit of aeration into the entire bed. I gotta be a little bit more careful so I don't puncture the landscape fabric that's in here lining it, keeping the soil up top and out of the water. We're about there. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to work. Alright, there we go. All loosened up. Now I've got my bucket. Now I'm going to put the soil that I take out of here into. And this is not something that, like I said, I don't have to do it every single year. But after you go so much time, I've realized that it needs doing. When I initially built this, I basically did the same thing then. And like I said, between the nutrient cycling that I'm noticing, and then any kind of nutrients that are in my compost, I haven't had really much issues with plants being healthy and getting all the nutrition that they need. So, alright, pours out and fluffed. Now, we're gonna go take the bag of the organic granular. We're gonna put quite a bit of this down. That should be good. Now that that's down, I'm going to take some of this bone meal and also throw some of this down just to make sure there's plenty of calcium and phosphorus. Next, I'm going to throw in some of my own worm castings from my worm bin. Some perlite. And finally some vermiculite. Helps with the water transfer from the bottom to the top. I gotta find my little small hand shovel real fast. Alright, got my hand shovel. So now what we're gonna do is take some of this and put it in here and then start blending all this together. Oops, if I quit slinging everything everywhere, that'd be a good start. Alright. Doesn't need to be perfect because in reality all these nutrients are going to just be in this container. So over time they will probably migrate and move, and it's going to be a while before I really have anything in here. This is mainly for my warm season crops. I may go ahead and put some cool seeds and stuff like lettuce or something in here, but for the most part it's not that big of a deal. Alright, that's good enough. So now I'm gonna get my I'm gonna go ahead and level it off and then add the rest of the soil that came out of it. Alright, that's pretty much it. Alright, so now we have a core of brand new nutrients in the center. I could have mixed it up way more heavy than I did, but I don't really like going 3 years between the nutrients running out. I'd rather the 2-year mark, because now that I've fluffed it up some, it's not nearly as empty as it was. So the next step we've got is to get some more of the Pro Mix and the compost and leaf mold mixed up so we can top off this bed. One more quick thought that I just had. I had already finished the video, but I kind of wanted to come back to make this point. What if instead of me filling it with the hose, and instead of it just being like a rain catchment barrel, what if I attached the gutters to it, allowed it to fill every time it rained, and then also plumb the outlet for the overflow for that thing to also go ahead and water my side bed by drip irrigation? Then that would be a legitimate self-watering tub. Okay, either that's an awesome idea, or I finally flew one too many times over the cuckoo nest. But to me, that sounds like an awesome project. So you guys watching this right now, this is probably going to be inserted somewhere in the middle of the video because I'm really interested, and I want to catch you guys before a lot of people dip out. So, would a project where I take my rain gutter, connect it to my self-watering bed, and then having it run to feed the overflow out to my side bed as drip irrigation, would that be something that you guys would like to see? If it is, let me know. I'm probably not going to get to this before the cold sets in, but it sure as hell could be a spring project for me to start on that sounds kind of fun and interesting. So let me know. Alright, I'm out of here again. Okay, now off camera I went ahead and I filled up the bucket here with my already prepared Pro Mix, and the thing I like to stress is get stuff done before you need it. That way when it's time for you to use it, you've already got it. You don't have to do the extra work of prepping that stuff just so you can get started prepping something else. So in that vein, we've got our soil mix here. I've got my sifted compost / leaf mold mix here, and all my other ingredients that I showed you already when I went to go fill it into there for the core. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to get us this compost blend. We're going to go kind of heavy on that because this bed really could use it. Plus the biology that's in it is a good thing to add. I don't need any worm castings, but I will add some more of everything else to this that's going to be sitting on top. Now you might be asking yourself, why do the core and then also add more on top? Well, the answer is pretty simple. The core is mainly meant for the roots when they finally get down from the surface. Now on top though, I still like to have nutrients on top for when it rains and snows, and it just doesn't enter into the system as a whole, it seems like, nearly as well and evenly as the core does. But it's still there for those early roots to be able to tap into it for anything that I do plant, like right now, or in the spring when I'm trying to get the first crops started in it. Alright, we're going to add a little bit more perlite, just like we did to the core. Not too much. A little bit more vermiculite. Yeah, and do your best not to breathe this stuff in. It's not really good for you. I don't have a mask on, but it's more of a do as I say, not as I do type deal. So if something happens to you for not wearing a mask, it's not my fault. Alright, I'm going to get down here so we can make this mixing easier. Now I'm going to mix this all through. And I will say that my Pro Mix blend that's already made up and sitting on the side, it's been outside for a while, so it's pretty dry. My compost that's been sifted was kind of dry, but not, I mean, it was moist, but it wasn't overly moist. So I'm going to have to water this in once I add it to the top of the bed. Alright, that's good enough. Now we're going to go ahead and just pour it on the surface. And here we go. Nothing fancy about it, just dump. And this is not enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make up another batch without you guys. And I will come back when I'm pouring that batch on. Okay. Got the second mix, basically the same exact thing that we did already. And then we're going to go ahead and smooth it down. Alright, so now we still got two things to do, which is put down straw and then water in the soil we just put in so that it can start the capillary action and let this thing start watering itself from the bottom. Alright, we got our easy straw now, which we're going to go ahead and put a decent layer on top. Now, I said that I was going to still possibly plant in this fall with some cool seasoned crops, but even though that may or may not happen, it's very important that I put my straw on here now, because if I don't, then there's usually critters that like to come up here, especially with this espoma granular, the smell. So we want to keep that at a minimum. We are trying to keep any kind of new weed seeds from coming up, or more than likely those marigolds that drop some seeds, especially now that we've done mixed up the soil. So that'll just help us out a little bit. Plus, it just keeps the soil nice and hydrated throughout the rest of the fall until the freeze comes. And then also, once the thaw happens again in spring, everything will be nice and moist, regardless of how much water is or is not in the reservoir down below. And that's also a very important thing. I don't know whether or not it will actually crack the tote over winter with the water that's down in the reservoir, but what I typically like to do is not fill up this thing close to, you know, going into freezing, just to make sure that I don't have to worry about the freezing water that's down at the bottom, because there's always going to be water in the soil, and there's going to be water down in the reservoir. So I'm trying to do my best to keep the amount of water in the reservoir as low as possible, because there's no sense in it being there unless there's something growing anyways. And typically this thing will hold on to quite a bit of moisture, just like your typical soil would. So just a little bit more, and then we'll water this in, and we are done putting this puppy to either sleep, or it's set up to go ahead and put some more crops in for the fall/winter. Alright, so now just water it down just to make the chopped up straw stick, and to wet the new soil that we just put in. And I'm probably going to use this entire 2.5 gallons of water just to make sure everything is nice and moist all the way through. I know for a fact that come spring, even if I don't plant anything in this and I don't touch it till spring, by then it's going to recompact and it's going to drop down probably about an inch or so. That's fine. I can always re-top it back up in the spring with some more compost and Pro Mix, and it'll be no worse for wear, or I could just run it however low it is and it'll be fine either way. But there you go. That's how I take care of my wicking beds. I guess this will be my every 3-year process, unless I try to do my best to get it so that it needs to be done every 2 years, but still not too much work, not a whole lot of bending over other than mixing up the soil. But I could have done that on the table over there, or I could have sat down and I could have figured out a different way instead of bending down. But I was just doing the quick and the dirty to get you guys the information and showing you what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and get back over to the chair. So that's it. Done, taken care of. One more task off the list of things to do this fall, and I'm happy and satisfied. Now, I may not have went through and explained a whole lot of why these are such a asset. The name self-wicking or self-watering beds, while it's true to some extent, in others it's not. The best thing about these is you fill up the water until it starts to overflow out of the spout, and that's it. You check on it every now and then. When you can see that it's low, you fill it back up. The reason I think that they call it a self-watering bed is because instead of you just adding water to it with a can or whatever, you're allowing the plants to dictate how much water that they want, and so they decide on their own, and you're just the water boy or girl. The benefits that I have seen, my onions that I grew in my side self-watering bed, they were awesome. They grew to huge size, and I had a bunch of them in there. I've thrown in 2 or 3 tomato plants, like I'm not talking about your small tomato plants. I'm talking about indeterminate plants. I've grown in them all at one time. This year I had 5 pepper plants and a smaller one. I think that one's like a 27-gallon total size watering bed. I think that holds about somewhere around 8 or 9 gallons of water at a time, and it takes the guesswork out of, should I water, when do I water, because you just, like I said, let the plants dictate it to themselves. And the other thing is, you don't have to worry about it being too wet, because the water can only go up so high before there's less and less water. So even if I were to dig underneath on the side one underneath the mulch, it will be moist, yes, but it's not soaking wet. I can't wring out water from it if I squeeze it. Now, the further you go down, the wetter it'll get, but the roots at that point are going to decide whether or not they want that water or not. So, like I said, it just takes the guessing off of it. My watermelon and my cantaloupes, other than this year where I noticed that there was problems with nutrients and not having enough, the last 2 years, I couldn't stop them from growing. They were huge, and we're talking about like sugar babies that were like this big. All because they were watering themselves. Same thing with the cantaloupe. So I've grown everything from lettuce to cucumbers to, like I said, watermelon, cantaloupe, green beans, you name it, I've thrown it in this. And this is the first time that I'm topping up on my fertilizers in any one of my wicking tubs since I first started using them. So that's nuts in itself. So I've been meaning to make a video about how I built one of these. Everything's just been taking up so much time, and I haven't gotten to it. Again, we're getting back into the cool season, so that's going to give me plenty of time to maybe go ahead and knock out a video, because I could probably use at least one more. I'm not sure where I would put it, but I could probably use one more. So if you guys have any questions about, a self-watering tote, self-watering bed, sub-irrigated bed, let me know down in the comment section. I will try to answer as much as I can about it, and you can expect to probably have some more videos about them and their uses and stuff like that, along with that build video eventually. So with that, I'm your boy, BigWillDogg82 in the soil, and I'm out of here. See you guys later. All right, beer 30 and chill.